Our film begins with Calvin, a writer and novelist. He is trying to find a new subject for his book idea. He hasn't written a single letter yet. However, he is failing to form a new idea. He spends part of his day with his brother Harry at the gym. Harry attempts to persuade him to leave the house. He urges Calvin to try and socialize with new people. He suggests starting a relationship with any girl. She might be the key to determining his next book's idea. But Calvin always prefers to sit alone with his dog Scotty. He visits his therapist. Calvin explains that he has a problem writing his next book. He has no ideas at all. He tells the doctor about the last time he took advice. He bought a dog to go out, walk with it, and meet more people. It turned out the dog was also afraid to interact with people. This only made Calvin stay home even more. The doctor proposes a task. He wants Calvin to write a story. The story should be about someone who sees his dog, stops to play with it, and loves it unconditionally. After Calvin finishes his session, he attends the seminar held in his name. The event celebrates the success of his last book. All his admirers ask him about his new book. He tries to evade their questions. He returns home and finds his dog has messed up his room. He grabs his blanket and sleeps in the living room instead. He dreams that he is sitting in a garden. A beautiful girl approaches and asks to draw his dog. She sits and talks with him until she finishes the dog's drawing. She tells him she loves his dog exactly as it is. Suddenly, Calvin wakes up. He finally has an idea for a new book he can write. Inspiration has struck him. He remains seated for days, writing on his typewriter. He only manages to get up with difficulty for his second session with the doctor. As soon as he arrives, Calvin calls the doctor a genius. He says he almost didn't come today because of the flood of ideas in his mind. He explains that he writes because he loves staying with the novel's heroine. He doesn't want to leave her. It feels like he is falling in love. He realizes he cannot fall in love with the character he created. She is not real. Her name is Ruby. She is 26 years old. She was expelled from high school for having a relationship with a teacher. Ruby cannot drive or use a computer. He has made her a somewhat complex character. She is looking for something to change her life for the better. After finishing his session, he returns home. Calvin is hosting Harry and his wife. He notices clothes in the house that are not his. Calvin gives a part of his novel to his brother for his opinion. Harry objects to it, calling it a romantic story. He states that few people read those stories anymore. Calvin gets upset by his brother's words. He declares he will continue writing his novel regardless. After his brother's visit ends, Calvin goes back to writing his novel. He imagines sitting with Ruby and talking to her. Calvin is extremely happy that he can imagine being with her. He speaks to her and promises he will always love her and never grow tired of her. Calvin works so hard that he falls asleep next to the typewriter. He wakes up to a phone call from the publishing house he is contracted with. They ask him if his book is ready for review. Calvin tells them he has written a portion of the book. He says he will drop by immediately. Before leaving the house, he glances to his side. He sees Ruby, the character he wrote in the novel. She matches the descriptions he wrote exactly. He is shocked. He thinks he has truly gone crazy. As soon as she touches him, he runs to his desk. He tells himself she is not real. She is just a character he created in a novel. He convinces himself he is dreaming. He comes out to look at her and finds her standing there. He hides from her in his bathroom. He calls his doctor, but the doctor doesn't answer. Calvin decides to come out, confront her, and talk to her. He asks her if the clothes there are hers. She confirms they are hers. She points out they are women's clothes, and she is the only woman in the house. He goes out to call his brother and tells him what happened. Harry advises him that he must go to his doctor. He insists that staying alone at home is the cause of his madness. Harry suggests he should find someone to talk to until they can meet that evening. Calvin finds the number of a girl he met at his seminar nearby. He calls her and says he wants to meet her immediately. As he is leaving, Ruby tells him she wants to go out with him. She says she won't leave him. He is forced to take her along. He tells her he is meeting a friend. He asks her to go walk around until his meeting is over. He goes to meet the girl. He keeps talking to her, hoping to forget what happened. Suddenly, he sees Ruby approaching them. He is surprised to see that other people see Ruby normally, just like him. She is actually a real human being. But Ruby thinks he is cheating on her. She leaves him and walks away. After he confirms she is real, he runs after her. He apologizes to her. He lifts her up and runs with her. She asks him to put her down so they can talk things through. Calvin tells her he loves her. He says he couldn't believe a girl like her could love him. He calls her beautiful and amazing. She forgives him for what he did. They go out together. They go to the cinema. Calvin spends time unlike any he had spent in a long time. After finishing his outing, he goes to meet Harry. He tells Harry what happened. Calvin says he can prove the truth of his words. He offers to show Harry Ruby herself. Harry goes to Calvin's house with him. He actually sees Ruby standing in front of them. However, Harry suspects she is a con artist. He takes his brother aside. Harry says that no one appears suddenly like this. He believes Ruby is deceiving him and is a fraud. He wonders if Calvin's typewriter is magical. They both go up to the machine. Calvin begins to type that Ruby speaks fluent French. They go downstairs together. They find that Ruby is now actually speaking French. The machine is confirmed as the cause of what happened. However, there is no explanation for how this occurred. Harry laughs continuously at the unfolding situation. Calvin goes up to write that Ruby should return to speaking as before. Afterwards, they go down to have lunch together. They spend the evening together. Harry remains astonished by the events. When the evening ends, Calvin stresses to Harry that no one should know Ruby is his creation. He tells Harry to simply say she is his girlfriend. They agree on this. Calvin goes up to put his novel in the drawer. He wants to focus more on Ruby for a while. He temporarily sets aside his novel. He continues his life with her. He tries to avoid her meeting his mother's house. Ruby, however, urges him to visit his mother's house with his brother. She wants to meet her too. After much discussion, Calvin is convinced. They travel to his mother's house. Ruby gets along well with his mother and loves her. They spend the day together. However, Calvin always prefers to isolate himself. He sits alone away from their gatherings. He is not comfortable with his mother's friend, and he dislikes dealing with her. They return together to their apartment. Calvin starts to get annoyed by Ruby's noise and her singing. This happens while he is reading the book he had throughout the trip. Ruby begins to feel lonely and neglected. She asks Calvin that she wants to do something new with her life. For example, she wants to take drawing lessons. She also wants to return and live in her apartment again, even if just one day a week. Calvin agrees to her suggestion to ease her feelings, but he feels lonely on the day she spends in her apartment. He waits for her to return the next day. She tells him about her drawing lesson. She enjoyed it greatly. He tells him he doesn't want her to be away from him, not even for one day. She doesn't care about his opinion. She tells him she needs space between them. She starts to neglect Calvin. She doesn't pay attention to him as before. She goes out with her friends from the class. She informs him that she will not be able to have lunch with him. He begins to feel lonely again. This time, the feeling is stronger than before. Initially, he was not used to anyone and preferred to be alone, but this time, he realized the value of caring for someone and being cared for in return. Therefore, he decides to retrieve the Ruby novel. He starts to modify a few things in it, according to his desires. He begins to write that Ruby, the heroine, becomes miserable after trying to distance herself from Calvin. His phone rings. It is Ruby, his girlfriend. She tells him she wants to return and live with him always. She says she will never leave him. He changes Ruby from a free-spirited character to a restricted one. She is bound to him because of her love. She never leaves him, not even during sleep or while eating. She clings to him even when answering the phone. If he leaves her and moves away for any reason, she cries like a small child away from their parents. She cries in the house because he let go of her hand and she was left alone. Although he wished for this, he couldn't stand the new Ruby he created. He returns to his machine again. He writes that Ruby becomes happy with him. Ruby transforms into a constantly cheerful, humorous character. She is always laughing. He thinks that this way he is helping her. However, this version of her still doesn't please him. He writes that Ruby returns to being natural. She can be happy or sad just as she likes. She transforms into a subdued character. She doesn't want to move or go out. After many discussions between them, she agrees to go with him to the publishing house party. Calvin leaves her to greet the guests. He runs into his old girlfriend. They talk together. They argue about the reason for their breakup years ago. She tells him he was a selfish person. He only cared about himself. He saw everyone around him as a threat. He wanted to be the one dictating everything in the relationship without even caring about her opinion. That is why she was forced to leave him and separate from him. Calvin leaves her to look for Ruby. He finds her getting ready to jump into the pool with one of the party guests. Calvin is shocked by her behavior. They go home and he argues with her about her actions. She in turn blames him. She says she left her alone in the middle of the party. She didn't know anyone there. She yells at him that she is tired of all the rules he has set for her. She feels restricted and imprisoned. She's not even allowed to talk to him about anything unless he agrees with it. She tells him she has no right to decide what she does. He tells her he is able to decide what she does. He says he can control her. He leaves her and heads towards his typewriter.
Ruby starts gathering her close. She tells Calvin she is leaving the house. She suggests they can talk later. He doesn't respond to her. Instead, he writes on the typewriter. He writes that Ruby will not be able to leave the house. Ruby attempts to go out. She finds something physically preventing her from leaving. She starts crying because of what is happening to her. Calvin gives her the paper he just typed. She reads it and finds he wrote exactly what happened to her. He then gives her the rest of his novel. She realizes the entire story is about her. She tells Calvin he is not allowed to write her personal life. He replies that he isn't just writing about her. He is writing her personally. She is the main character of his novel. He explains that one day he wrote about his dream girl. He detailed all her features and named her Ruby. The next day, he woke up and found her in his house. He confirms he can control her and all her actions. This is because she is not real. However, she does not believe him. She calls him a sick person. She says he deserves to live his life alone. Before she can finish her sentence, she starts speaking French. This happens because he had just written that she speaks French. Ruby looks at what Calvin wrote. She now believes Calvin's claim that he controls her through writing. He writes that Ruby claps her hands. Her hands actually start clapping involuntarily. She cannot stop them. He next writes that Ruby is happy and cheerful. She starts jumping up and down. He makes her sing and dance against her will. He writes that she walks in front of him like a dog. She keeps repeating that she loves him deeply. She says she can't leave him. Ruby transforms into a crazy person. She has no control over her actions. She executes every word Calvin writes perfectly. Calvin finally stops writing. Ruby falls to the floor from exhaustion. He finally realizes how sick he is. She was right. He asks himself why he would do this to someone he loves. As soon as he approaches her, she leaves him. She exits the room and locks herself in her own room. He decides to return to writing. He writes that once Ruby leaves the house, she will be free forever. She will no longer be Calvin's creation. Ruby will disappear from Calvin's life. This becomes the final page of the novel. He writes a note on the outside of the novel directed to Ruby. It asks her to read the last page. He adds that he loves her very much. He leaves the novel in front of Ruby's room. He goes down and sleeps in the living room until the next day. He goes up to Ruby's room. He finds her door open. She has vanished from the house. He understands she has left him. She completely disappears from Calvin's life. He cries on the floor until he falls asleep. Harry, his brother, comes to check on him. He tries to comfort him. Calvin cries, telling him she is gone for good. Calvin tries to move on with his life. He stops writing and pauses everything in his life. Harry urges him to return to writing. He must write about anything possible because his admirers are waiting. Calvin ignores his typewriter. He begins to write a new novel. This one is about the person who caused her real personality to change. Calvin finishes his novel. It is published. The first page is dedicated as an ode to Ruby. He attends his first signing ceremony. For the first time, he invites his mother and her boyfriend to the event. He reads a passage from his novel in front of all his fans. Once he finishes, everyone present applauds him. They congratulate him on his great novel and its remarkable success. He reserves a special copy for his doctor. The doctor was the reason the idea came to him in the first place. Calvin continues his life. One day, he is walking with his dog. His dog runs toward a girl sitting in the garden. The girl looks exactly like Ruby. He is happy to see her again. She is a different person now. She is a character he did not create. The girl asks for the dog's name. He tells her his name is Scotty. She laughs. She says his name is like the dog's name in the novel she's reading. She hands him the book he wrote. He asks her what she thinks of the book. She shows him the photo on the back cover. He tells her he is the author. She offers to sit with him so they can continue talking about the book. Calvin is happy he has found Ruby. This time, he is sure he will know how to appreciate her. He will not lose her as he did before.
This is how we have reached the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this episode, do like and subscribe and comment with a heart emoji. Bye-bye!